If you live in Arkansas, then you have heard the name of my guest today, Arkansas's 39th First Lady, Miss Janet Huckabee. If you don't live in Arkansas, then you will know my guest today by the family she keeps. Husband, 44th Governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee, and daughter, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the 31st White House Press Secretary and current candidate for Governor of Arkansas. I know most interviewers want to talk to Janet about her famous family, but I want to talk to the woman of the family, because as we have all heard said, behind every good man is a good woman, and I'm sure the same can be said of sons and daughters. Janet, born a Louisianian, grew up in Hope, Arkansas. I'm not sure what's in the water down there that so many politicians come from Hope. I mean, Clinton's from Hope also. We've had two guys. Yeah, two guys run for president from Hope, Arkansas. And that's so strange. Anyway, young Janet McCain, thinking she was going to be a preacher's wife, wed her high school sweetheart, Mike Huckabee. As things would have it, she is and has been a preacher's wife, a mother of 3, cancer survivor, the First Lady of Arkansas, teacher, politician, advocate for Habitat for Humanity and the American Red Cross. And my favorite, she's been dubbed the first tomboy of Arkansas for her athleticism. It is with great pleasure and admiration that I welcome to the table a woman who can pivot on a dime, the versatile, selfless, unafraid Arkansas's 39th First Lady, Miss Janet McCain Huckabee. Girl, you are just go with the flow. Your husband, your daughter come in, say, we're doing this. You go, okay, I'm with you.
That's pretty much how it goes. I'm with you.
That's exactly the way I've read about you. So you left Louisiana as an infant.
Yes, I was 1.
And grew up in Hope, Arkansas, that we just talked about.
Sure.
Because you and I are the same age, I was very surprised to see that you played basketball in women's sport. My school didn't even have women's sport. And here, little old Hope, Arkansas has got women's sport, and you were a star basketball player.
I was pretty tall, so for me, that made sense to play basketball.
How tall are you now?
I'm now. I love it because, yes, we're shrinking. 5'9.5".
How tall were you then?
5'9.5". I think my coach always put me down as 5'10", but I never quite made it.
Are you taller than Mike Huckabee?
Probably not now. I mean, you've got to remember, women always wore heels, so I made me a little taller. But if we were just flat foot, we're probably about the same.
Yeah.
He says he's 5'11", but he's not. There's just no way. But, you know, it doesn't matter.
The truth comes out.
I see y'all standing next to each other, and I do realize you've got heels on. And I'm always like, she's taller than him, but then I think you've got heels on.
And fluffy hair.
And fluffy hair.
Versus no hair.
Also because you're... Has he got no hair right now?
He didn't have much. He has a little bit of hair, yeah, but not much.
Well, it's a good thing your son's hair, if I have my genetics right, comes from their mother's side. So did your father have hair?
He did.
Then your sons should have hair, if that's
but
right.
But they don't.
Oh, so they're... See, I don't know much.
Yeah,
I think that's a wives' tale.
And my mother had good hair, and none of us have good hair. I don't know what happened.
Huh. Well, you're a
Mike's
cancer survivor, though.
Yes, I blame it on that.
That's what I would blame it on.
Yes, I do.
And I'm sure that's true. But before we talk about that, let's also talk about your mother a little bit.
Okay.
Like I said, we're the same age. Your mother's a divorcee. Nobody was a divorcee back then.
That's right.
I knew one person. I mean, everybody is now.
I'm not sure I knew anybody, but yes.
Right. And she ran for office in the 60s.
Yes,
and was
she
elected to 3 terms.
She was exactly a county clerk for Hempstead County.
So progressive.
Yeah.
Well, she had 5 kids to raise. So
oh, wow.
There you go.
She needed something, but yes, she did.
So you think that, so that makes 3 generations. That makes your mother strong, a great role model. That makes you strong, a great role model, and your daughter, Sarah, strong. So tell me about your grandmother. Was she... Did you know her? Was she like that too?
No, she was a strong woman, don't get me wrong, but she never ran for office or anything to my knowledge. No.
So then your mother marries, I think it's Mr. House. And so your family gets really, really large because she had 5 kids. And how many did he have?
He brought one in.
He brought one in.
Well, I'm just saying, that's how it happened.
Yeah.
So 6 kids in the house. Kind of describe your high school years.
Well, they were kind of chaotic, but my older brother left to go to Louisiana to live with his father. And later my other brother went, but he came back. But he went for a little while and graduated from high school. And so that left all the girls. And then my oldest sister was in college and kind of going. So it wasn't as bad, but it was all girls. So
It was all girls? Well, after
After
the boys left.
So it was drama, There's a lot of drama.
You just have to admit it.
Just a little. I mean, we all got along great. We still do to this day. My little sister passed away when she was 16, but the rest of us communicate all the time.
So talk about your father. He worked in the oil fields. Your original father, your birth father.
Yes, and that's about, he left when I was very young. I kept contacting. They're both my parents have passed away, so
Rest in peace.
He remarried, and I saw him off and on, but not much. Saw him more as an adult than I did as a child. So
that speaks to the current condition, I think, of these absent fathers right now. There seem to be a lot of absent fathers right now, and single mothers trying to raise kids.
You mean like it's an intergenerational thing?
I guess so.
I talked to my little niece last night, and she's the daughter of my sister that passed away. Mm-hmm. She's raising 4 kids by herself. Mm-hmm. And I said, I'm proud of you because you could have not done that, and you've chosen to keep all your kids, try to raise them. I said, it's difficult when you have help, but I know it's extremely difficult when you don't.
Yeah.
And she doesn't have her mother. And so, there are a lot of people like that. A lot of single moms. And some single dads. Let's don't, rule out. There's also some single dads. But it's tough. It's tough when you put your kids to bed and you don't have anybody to talk to. Mm-hmm. You don't have help getting lunches ready. It's just hard. And I think today it's even harder. Mm-hmm.
And she's lucky she has her network of family, you and her.
Well, and that's been hard because she's not in the same city, and she went off on her phone, and I had to track her down, to just find out how she's doing because she's had a really tough time with her mother passing away.
I bet. Can she afford to work and pay for childcare for that many kids?
No, she can't. I mean, she's trying to find something she can do at home. She has a new baby. She's a good mom, and she wants to spend time with those kids.
How do you do that if you can't work and you had a deadbeat husband? How do you get income? I guess you have to get on welfare?
You do have to. You get on, Medicaid or welfare of some sort. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know what she does, to be honest with you.
So when I had that reminds me of a story. When I had my daughter, I was living in North Little Rock in downtown in this kind of rough neighborhood, and next to me was a girl, and I had Arkansas Flag and Banner, and I ran it out of my house, so I did have income because my husband was kind of deadbeat too. Well, not kind of, he was. And but we're great friends now. He's not anymore.
Yeah.
In case you're listening,
go
Archie,
read the blog.
you're great now. But the girl living next to me was on welfare, and she had a deadbeat boyfriend that she'd had a child with, and she was on welfare, and so I got her to answer the phone for me while I ran errands, but I had to pay her under the table.
Yeah.
And then I had a housekeeper, because when you decide you're going to give away money, you're going to give away jobs that you have. What are the jobs you give away? You give away the easiest ones. Well, anybody can clean your house. So I had a lady help me with the house. Had to pay her under the table. And then when they cut the welfare off on her, on both of those girls, they were forced to go out and get jobs. One of them went to cleaning houses at the hospital, and her husband, or her boyfriend of 3 children, that wasn't going to marry her, married her. He got so jealous because she was out working and meeting men. He married her. Her life changed and turned around. The girl next door to me went out and met a new man and married him, and they both became happily ever after. So staying at home with welfare checks is not healthy for your mentality, even though it may be a necessity.
No, it's a necessity. And I think in Arkansas especially, I think when Mike was governor, they created the Our Kids program, which is health insurance for kids. They don't. They have to pay something, so they have skin in the game. So it helps the adult not to feel like they can't do something, or they're
Self-worth.
embarrassed, or So, and it's been a great program.
Do
It's
they
been a
still
great
have
program.
Head Start? So that mothers
I'm sure
can-
they do.
So that
I've been out a while, so I'm not sure what all they've got now. But
because sometimes I try to hire people in my sewing department, and those young mothers are like, I can't pay child care and get paid for sewing, and because I break even, and somebody else is raising my kid, and so I'm like, well, and I try to tell them, for your own self worth, it's worth it. But I understand that.
yeah, and sometimes you have to, taper it down. If you're working, then you taper it down. You don't just cut them off, and that's really the part I think we do wrong is if you're working at all, they say, well, you can't have welfare. Well, that's ridiculous, because if you're working, you're trying to get ahead. So you need to say, you can work, we're going to do welfare, but we're going to only do X amount of welfare, and we'll taper it down as you grow into a better job, better paying job, and
Yeah.
But I'm not in government, so I'm not.
Oh, you might be before long. You never know. So when you met Mike Huckabee, was it love at first sight?
Well, Mike and I have been going to school together since 7th grade, so we're classmates. And he went to a different elementary school, but in 7th grade, everybody's in the same school. So we've been classmates forever, and so we still go. I say we still go to school and learn something new every day. But so no, I watched him, date other people. He's a classmate, and he watched me, and he used to do the radio
At the basketball games?
at my basketball games, and I never thought anything about it until one day he, I think, thought I was having more fun than he was, and so he asked me out. So in our senior year.
How funny was an announcer at your basketball games? Now,
Yep.
not everybody can tell that story.
Yeah, he's a radio man now, so
Yeah. Is he a radio man now or TV
Or
man
was.
now? Or he was a radio man.
Well, he does both.
okay.
He still does radio. He
what I
does a
thought.
podcast, so I guess that's radio.
So you've been married, and after 2 years, boom, you find out you have spinal cancer.
True.
Talk about being a cancer survivor. Talk about the fear, the recovery, and how it changed you.
Well, I practically had to learn to walk again because I did have eventually had surgery, and here in Little Rock, I had surgery. I had a fabulous neurosurgeon, and I had a very rare tumor. It's called an ependymoma. Not too many people have that, and so and I think he'd only seen a few in his years of practicing. That particular week he had 2, which was amazing. And so, I just had he felt like he got it all, but it's the kind that can grow back. So I had to have 6 weeks of radiation therapy every day, not missing a day.
Oof.
And Mike was in school. We were driving back and forth from Arkadelphia every single day. And eventually I learned to walk, and I have some nerve damage, but, I deal with it. I'm just glad to be standing up.
And nothing's ever come again. It's just a freaked one-time thing.
It was. I don't know if it was a freak, and I'm not sure it might come back still, but I pray it doesn't, so.
So I guess that really, to me, sometimes strife like that really solidifies your relationship with your husband or your
Yes,
friends.
because he could have walked out. Very simply said, I didn't sign up for this.
He also could have said, I might lose you. Oh, my gosh. I
Exactly.
better love every minute of it.
Exactly. So, I went in to have disc surgery. My orthopedic had said it was a classic case of
You didn't even
disc
know.
surgery.
You didn't even
No.
know what it was?
He did a myelogram and said, there's something in the canal. I can work all the way around the canal, but I cannot operate in the canal. You have to call in a neurosurgeon. And so it happened that fast. I mean, I didn't leave the hospital. I went in for the disc surgery, found out it's, tumor. Even the doctor didn't know at the time what it was for sure. He called it a mass.
Yeah.
So, you just, I'm 20. I mean, you don't think there's anything
I
going
was
to
going
happen
to say, you were
to
very
you, 'cause
young, right?
You just think you're invincible and you're going to, nothing, I never thought about death. Never crossed my mind.
Wonderful.
It just didn't.
Wonderful.
Because I was, athletic. I was young. You just don't think about stuff like that.
So,
Most 20-year-olds do not think the stupid things they do or illnesses they may have. They don't think about death. They just, say, hey, we got to get finished with this so I can move on.
I guess that's how they got those guys to get off those U-boats and run into the Normandy beach. They're like 18. They're like,
20, yeah.
Hey, it's going to be a great time.
I won't get shot. All right, but you had some blessings. I mean, it's kind of maybe remarkable you had 3 kids after that.
I did because I was told I wouldn't have any.
That's what I would think.
And if I did have them, there was a great possibility there would be, deformities or something of that
Problems
nature.
for you, probably, too.
So, I had 3 kids. I had no trouble with any of my pregnancies. They were fast, natural, no meds. I mean, just,
Oh, crazy.
Yeah,
John, Mark, David, and Sarah.
that's right.
All right, this is a great place to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue our conversation with the 39th First Lady of Arkansas, Miss Janet Huckabee. Still to come. Living in the governor's mansion and facilitating the largest renovation and addition ever. Learning your husband wants to run for the highest office in the land not once but twice. And life as the mother of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the 31st White House press secretary and current candidate for governor of Arkansas. I don't know if I could take the pressure. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with Carrie McCoy, a production of flagandbanner.com. Over 40 years ago, with only $400, Carrie founded Arkansas Flag and Banner. During the last 4 decades, the business has grown and changed, along with Carrie's experience and leadership knowledge. In 1995, she embraced the internet and rebranded her company as simply flagandbanner.com. In 2004, she became an early blogger. Since then, she has founded the nonprofit Friends of Dreamland Ballroom, began publishing her magazine, Brave, and in 2016 branched out into this very radio show, YouTube channel, and podcast. In 2020, Carrie McCoy Enterprises acquired OurCornerMarket.com, an online company specializing in American-made plaques, signage, and memorials for over 20 years, and more recently opened a satellite office in Miami, Florida. Telling American-made stories, selling American-made flags. TheFlagandBanner.com. Back to you, Carrie.
You're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Carrie McCoy, and I'm speaking today with Arkansas's First Lady from 1996 to 2007, Miss Janet Huckabee. Before the break, we talked about Janet McCain as a young woman marrying this preacher-to-be, Mike Huckabee, and surviving cancer, having children, and now we're going to talk about your husband running for governor of Arkansas. And you're like, what? So where were you living and how old you when Mike said, because I know he was a preacher and he was living, you've lived in Texas, you lived in, I don't know, you've lived everywhere. But he comes in one day, I guess, and says, honey, I want to run for governor. Did you want to slap him? Did you agree with him?
No. The interesting thing about that whole first, race was in high school, Mike was the student council president. In college, he was president of the student senate. These things were not out of the norm for him at all. So he was always into government stuff. He thought about running before we moved to Pine Bluff. He thought about running for Congress, Burl Anthony's seat at the time. And, we talked about it, but, we decided that wasn't what he was going to do. Anyway, so long story short, we went walking in the neighborhood in Texarkana one night. And he said, I think that God's wanting me to run for Senate. It was U.S. Senate.
Oh, yeah.
I said, okay. And he said, well, what do you mean, okay? And I said, well, God talks to other people too. It's not just you. And so I said, I think you're right. I think you should do that. So he did. and he was running against Dale Bumpers. And any other year, he'd have beat Dale Bumpers. But it happened to be the same year that Bill Clinton was running. So Bill Clinton being the hometown boy of Arkansas, it just really turned out the vote. And Mike lost. And right after that, because Clinton went to the White House, Jim Guy Tucker moved to governor. The Republican Party came and says, we need you to run for lieutenant governor. I mean, he was just running for Senate. And he was also in the hospital with pneumonia because he was running so hard, and you put off your health, and it's not healthy to run really for anything. So he said, I just don't think I can do that. I just ran a race. They said, I know. And I believe it was Asa Hutchinson that was at the time the party chair. And he said, but you have everything in place because you did just run.
Right.
And he said, I really think you can do it. So, long story short, Mike ran for lieutenant governor. Webb Hubbell at the time was running, I'm trying to think, I can't think of Nate Coulter, I think was his name. Yeah. His race against Mike out of the basement of the White House. So it was very difficult for Mike to run, and it was a hard race. But he did, and he won. So it was kind of a total upset. It was almost a bigger win that he won the lieutenant governor's race than it was when he ran for governor and won that. He was also in a second Senate race somehow or another. I don't know how. Or maybe he gave up. No, he lost against Dale Bumpers. He was running for Senate again somehow, and he gave that up. No, that was the second time. I'm sorry. He did get lieutenant governor twice. He ran, and then he became governor, and then he was running for Senate.
And did he become governor because Jim Guy had to resign?
Yes.
And so he got moved up as lieutenant governor into the governorship.
Exactly.
So when he won the governorship, was not such a surprise because he had been acting governor.
Exactly. And he ran He ran 2 times because you can run 2 consecutive years. But because he inherited 2.5 years of Jim Guy Tucker's term, he was in office for 10.5 years, which is very unusual.
Yeah, it is.
It's hard to do. But
yeah, I was trying to piece that together when you said his term earlier in the interview. That makes sense.
So
now.
yeah, it was. But it was a. And here's a very interesting fact. President Clinton was born in Hope, Arkansas, and so was Mike, and they are the only 2 that we know of where a president and sitting governor were from the same hometown, a little town in Hope, Arkansas, with about 10,000, maybe not even that now, about 8,000 now. So that was interesting.
Did Bill and Mike know each other? Their age difference?
No, because there's about a 9 years age difference, 8 or 9. And he only lived in Hope for 6 years. He was born there and left first grade.
Clinton went to lived in Hot Springs, I think. And then, as governor and president, did they work on the same things together?
They didn't work on the same things, but they did have a good working relationship.
A lot of collaborating.
Because Arkansas was doing stuff, and the president does a lot more. So, but we had disasters, and he would come down. They work closely together on those, and. So, yeah.
So now you're living in the mansion. Is it like living in a fishbowl?
Yes.
That's what I hear people say.
Mike always said it's like living in a resort that you can't go home from.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
I always said it's like living above the store and the store's not yours.
Oh.
So there was,
good, yeah.
It's just kind of like, it was different. I mean, just say
I
it's
am
very
surprised at how small the living quarters were.
It's extremely
upstairs.
small. In fact, there's only 3 rooms upstairs. There's a little room off of the master, but technically there's 3 bedrooms upstairs. Each bedroom has a bathroom, so that's a good thing. But that's it. Mm-hmm. When you want to do anything else, you have to go downstairs in the basement, which is not conducive to,
I remember
coming
Chelsea
and going.
had her playroom in the basement.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, that's you have to choose.
How many kids did you have in that
I had
mansion?
3, but
How'd you do that?
My oldest was in college, so it helped out. And when he came home, he'd stay in the guest house. That's all.
Oh
you
yeah,
can do.
sure.
That's all you can do.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
It makes your family tight though sometimes when you have to live like that. You
Yeah,
know?
but if you're not used to doing it, it's a whole nother.
So you decided to expand the mansion.
I did, and there are several reasons for that. When you had an event, you had to put up a tent, a huge white tent, which was an ordeal in itself, in the backyard. And if it's hot, it's hot. And if it's cold, it's
cold.
usually cold, even if you have heaters.
And if you got heels on, your heels go in the grass.
Well, yeah, it's just.
It's not good for the grass.
I mean, it works if that's all you can do. And so I decided there was more than we could do. And so I raised the money to add on what we call the Grand Hall. And
we now call it the Janet M. Huckabee Grand Hall. They named it after you, I guess.
well,
you
they
know.
did, but okay, yeah, okay. Some do, some don't. Let's just put it that way. But there was a big deal about, well, first we expanded the kitchen. There was just this little porch on the back, and I said, let's just move this wall, move everything back, and have it's in the historic district.
Oh.
So that proposes a lot of problems that you have to kind of negotiate and work through. And I did. I talked with everybody, and we worked through it and kept everything intact. The Grand Hall technically can stand on its own. The way to make it work was we added the atrium from the hall to the house itself, and technically it's got four bolts on either end. I mean, you could take it off, and if anybody wanted to go back to natural, you just take off the glass part, close the door, and just call it a building outside.
Really?
Yeah, you could.
I'm going to look the next time I'm in there. Now that you mentioned that,
because all the steps were kept intact that went off the back where Clinton did his announcement. All that was left. All the natural brick, everything was left. We just put glass around it, attached it to the hall.
And you're getting a lot more guests because Clinton is now president, and a lot more people are now coming to the mansion maybe than ever before.
Well, a lot of people came, but this way you could have an event. I mean, our thing and the other thing was that one snow that we had an event, it snowed, and that tent collapsed right after everybody went home.
Oof.
Well, I was just horrified.
Sure.
And that was just and another thing that made it that I wanted to fix was it was not handicap accessible anywhere in the house.
Oh.
Yeah, that's a problem a lot of those buildings in the historic district have.
And so we had to literally put a guy in the car from the front. There was a ramp in the car from the front, drive him around the back, get him out to go to the bathroom, put him back in the car. And I said, this is just ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I said, someday there might be a handicapped child, there might be a handicapped governor
yeah.
or first lady, or I said, we've got to change this. It's just ridiculous.
Well, you didn't get much flack for it. I'm telling you, I think people were ready for it.
Well, not for that. I did 3 things, really. I did the kitchen first, and then we did the chandelier. One day I kept seeing this white stuff on the floor, and I thought, gosh, we're not cleaning up the steps. We gotta keep this looking nice. Next day it'd be there again. It's like someone was putting, like Gretel was dropping crumbs to go upstairs.
Confetti on the steps.
And finally I looked up and realized it was coming from the ceiling where the chandelier was hanging. And I thought, oh, we got to fix that.
Is that in the foyer?
Yes.
Oh.
And also the hair dryers you couldn't use but one at a time because it would blow fuses. It was just there's a leak in the ceiling in the living room, and they would just paint over it. I said, why don't we just fix it instead of painting over it? So we did a major rehaul on the mansion itself. We put a new roof on there, which was original to the house. It was this Georgian style tile, and so we put that on there, and we fixed the ceiling and repainted everything, and they took the chandelier down. And when the guy took it down, he was just white. And I said, what's the matter? And he said,
Oh, no.
It was hanging up there by the wire.
Oh,
And he said it was
waiting to fall.
due to fall at any moment. And the reason I got was that I took the people from the Mansion Association and said, look at this. I said, this is falling, the ceiling's falling down. And I said, I don't want to lose this chandelier on my watch.
Right.
And when the guy told me that, I thought, we almost lost that chandelier on my watch. I mean, it was really close to falling.
So you
we
put that one back up?
Yes, we reinforced everything and put it back up. And yes.
But didn't you make some famous chandelier in the back mansion, in the back addition? Didn't you do something famous?
I had different lights. I think Ginger Baby changed it to another chandelier in there.
Well, there was
now.
a chandelier called the Arkansas chandelier with 25 lights and 27 stars.
That is, I think, and I don't know the whole history of that, but I think Ginger Baby did that. Because what I had up there is not there anymore.
You got credit for.
No, I don't.
Let me
think
tell
I
you
did.
what you got credit for on Arkansas Wikipedia page.
Well, Wikipedia's not always right.
Exactly right. You got credited for the beaded crystal apple blossoms, the beaded crystal honeybee, the bronze pine cones, the diamond-shaped crystal prisms commemorating Arkansas's legacy of the diamond mining,
shaking
and
her head
two
back and forth
large
after each of these.
native crystal pieces mined in Garland County.
Those are all on the chandelier. No, I didn't do that.
Somebody needs to.
Well, I'm just giving. She did it after I left. I didn't have anything to do with it. So
There you go.
I did have lights in the Grand Hall, but that's not the one I had.
So I love this that you were. You did put all the governor's names on the stairs
I
coming
did.
down. That is fabulous.
And
And what are we going to do when we run out of stairs?
Well, it'll last you a long time. They'll probably want to do something else, or you can start it up the stairs in the house because that's just the stairs in the Grand Hall.
Oh, I've been
So-
trying to figure out where there was another stair.
Yeah, there's a
set
lot of stairs that they can do it on.
I like
Yeah.
it. So for our listeners, if you go to the Grand Hall and you walk down these grand stairs, on the, I guess is that the face, the riser of each stair is the name of the governor in order.
That lived in the house. Let me start there
It
because
did.
it doesn't have every governor in there. We just
that's
have
right,
the
that lived in
governors
the
that
house.
lived in the house.
That's right.
Correct. And
So I love this about you. This is my favorite thing I read about you. You were dubbed the first tomboy of Arkansas. You ski, swim, basketball, fly airplanes, bungee jump, parachute, grenade launch. And when you grenade launched at the National Guard, you said, I hit, because I think
2
you're-
out of 3 times.
Whoa, yes.
First time I wasn't sure what we were doing. The second 2 times I knew exactly what we were doing.
Whoa.
she's competitive.
Now,
like
here's
it.
the deal. If Camp Robinson called me or the Little Rock Air Force called me and said, "Hey, I want to see if the First Lady will come out and do X," it was always a yes because I just totally support our military in any way I can. It didn't matter what it was, and there were some things I got myself into that I didn't realize I was getting myself into until I got out there. Like one time they were training dogs and they wanted it to attack me, and I'm thinking, not sure about this. But, they put all this stuff on your arms and,
Yeah.
they come. But that's what they do. And I learned from doing what they do. And so I have had some incredible military experiences and never served a day in the military.
Airplanes. You parachuted.
I did. I jumped with the Golden Knights, which are absolutely the
Never do
top
that.
of the line.
In a million years, I would never do that in a million years.
Watched them refuel a aircraft in air from a, tanker.
That's pretty fascinating. How do they do that?
It was a stealth fighter too, so it just kind of snuck
yeah.
up there out of the clouds. I just went, whoa!
That's amazing to me.
And you're sitting there looking through this window, and they fill it up, and they
They're gone.
disappear just as fast as they came. It was amazing.
This is one I love. You did. You jet skied it says the length of the Arkansas River. I think that may be a typo too.
No, it's not.
You did?
No, it's not a typo. We started up in Fort Smith and went to Oklahoma and turned around and came down. Now, the way that got started, just to be clear, I had a jet ski and knew how to ride one. Mike wanted to do it in his bass boat so he could fish along the way. And I'm thinking, I can't think of anything more boring than sitting in that bass boat all the way down the river. I said, so we were in the Parks and Tourism meeting and the Game and Fish, and Richard Richard Weiss, was it? I think they said, "What do you want to do?" I said, "I want to use jet ski," and then they just kind of hum on, came back and said, "No, really, really, what do you want to do?" I said, "I want to ride down the river on the jet ski. That's really what I want to do, and that's what I'm going to do." So we got jet skis, and we did the whole river just like Mike and the boat. We went up, and it was a great experience because we had the Game and Fish had some boats. One of them we called the Bologna Barge because we'd go there and get a sandwich. It just floated up down the river, and you just pull up, say, "Hey, y'all got anything to eat?" And they, pass out a sandwich. And then the other one had a little bathroom on it if you need to, but you could stop along the way. It was not a big deal. So it was a fascinating experience.
How many people did it with you?
On the jet ski?
Uh-huh.
2. Me and a trooper. That was it.
That's it. Mm-hmm. You and a trooper.
Yeah. Now, I will say that there was a Game and Fish boat that would follow both boats. Follow Mike, follow me. So there were 2 Game and Fish boats.
Did he do the bass fishing too?
Yeah, he'd stop along the way. And, the whole thing was to promote the 1/8 cent sales tax, which was, still to this day it's an eighth of a penny.
Yeah.
I mean, when you think about it, it's an eighth of a penny that the state voted on. It was a state initiative, and they voted on it. And they use it for Keep Arkansas Beautiful, the Game and Fish, Parks and Tourism, and there's one other thing, but I can't think what it is.
Department of Heritage.
Right, Department of Heritage. And so they get that little money, and it raises, I think, quite a bit of money.
Well, you got
every year.
inducted to the Arkansas Outdoor Hall of Fame
For that
reason right there. That's probably my favorite story of Miss
that was very
Janet
kind of them to
Huckabee.
do, because they certainly didn't have to.
So he runs again for office the second term, and you decided to run for Secretary of State against Charlie Daniels. Why did you do that?
The party came and asked me to.
And you said okay.
Yeah, I said, okay, why not?
Charlie Daniels, he'd have been a tough one to beat.
Well, he'd been land commissioner forever.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was just moving. Mm-hmm. What people don't understand, I think this is where we really is one of the reasons we have term limits, is because you just don't go in there forever. Mm-hmm. Nationally or
You think
state.
senators ought to have term limits?
I do. I think
do too.
if the president has term limits, I think Congress ought to have term limits.
I think so too.
I just do, because they're
Will it ever happen?
no, because they're the ones that have to vote on it.
I know, right?
So
I wouldn't vote myself out.
But and they don't live under the rules they impose on us, so that's just not right either.
Right.
So I
Will
think
you run for Senate?
no,
The
probably
party
not.
asked.
I'm too old.
No, you're not. You're my age. You're not too old.
I know, but I don't know that it would
Asa
work
Hutchins
well.
is going to run for president. He's older than us. He's 71. And 24. And
Yeah, they are. Yeah, but
he's going to.
I don't think it'd be good for my family life if I was up in Senate and everybody
I
else
agree.
is down here.
You
so.
are the backbone of your family. All right, this is a great place to take a break. When we come back, still to come, campaigning for her husband's 2008 and 2016 presidential run for office. And when I say her, I mean Janet Huckabee. And life as the mother of Sarah Huckabee Sanders, the 31st White House press secretary and current candidate for the governor of Arkansas. We'll be right back. You're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Carrie McCoy. I'm speaking today with Arkansas's First Lady from 1996 to 2007, Miss Janet Huckabee, which we learned on the last break. The reason it was 10 years is because her husband was grandfathered in from serving as acting lieutenant governor. He became the governor for 2 years, and then he was voted in twice by Arkansans. During this break, Mike comes in and tells you now you're out of office for, I think, 2 years, or maybe not even that long. You're out of the governor's mansion. And Mike comes in and says he wants to run for president. So here, I'm going to ask the question. And did you think, oh, no, here we go again? Do you want to kill him? Do you want to strangle him?
No, I always thought he would.
No!
Yeah.
Sure. All the running he's been doing previously.
I can tell you that I parked at the junior high school in Texarkana, Arkansas, sat in a car with a friend of mine named Susan Underwood. She can verify this. When I was telling her he was going to run for Senate, and I said, and I don't think he'll stop there.
And that was when y'all were in your 20s, early 30s.
What, that he ran?
No, that you sitting in that car making that prediction.
Well, that was in 91.
Yeah.
1991.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I was a little younger.
Yeah. So
I don't think it was 20s, but...
How old? Maybe 30s. Yeah, 90 if you were born in 50. Yeah, I'd been in your 30s. So you knew then he was that
Here's the funny thing.
ambitious.
If you go back and look at Mike Huckabee's annual, when people used to sign annuals, and tell you, hey, it's been a great year, I enjoyed, there are several entries of people saying, I know you're going to be governor someday, I know you're going to be president someday, and it's just funny. But yes, that was in high school that people saw that in Mike. So it wasn't unusual for me to hear that from him at all.
Well, so how old are your kids now? They're all gone, I guess, when he decides to run for the presidency.
Yes, they're all. I think my daughter may have been in college for a little bit, but mostly they're all out.
Did you move to Washington?
No. Oh, God, no.
Did you ever live in Washington?
No.
You didn't?
No. Is that in Wikipedia? Is that something we need to scratch out?
No.
No, there's only two ways to live in Washington. One is the president, or one is the vice president. I could not function in that city. No.
Well, I think that's probably why everybody lives in Virginia and Maryland all around
sure.
there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Talk about campaigning for the highest office in the land. Were you prepared for it? You campaigned all the time. You started, let me just tell our listeners.
We did campaign
You
all the
campaigned
time.
for your mother in high
Yes.
school. So you've been campaigning all your life. And now you're going to do it for that.
Here's what I would say about it in a nutshell. I wish everybody in the United States had the opportunity to run for president one time. It is just an incredible experience that, win or lose, it's an incredible experience, and that I wish everybody could do. It's that exhilarating, I guess.
So it's not hard.
Oh, no, it's extremely hard. No, hard is not even putting it right. It's so difficult because you literally wake up in different places every day. You don't know where you are sometimes. You hear politicians say, hey, it's so good to be in Ohio, and you're not in Ohio, you're in Wisconsin. But I can see where they can make a little mistake like that because, we would stay in Marriott's the whole time just because the decor was the same, and you think you're in your bedroom, but you're not. You're just in the same hotel. They use the same covers. The microwave might be in the same place, or everything's the same. Didn't matter what state you're in. So it's very hard. Very hard. You get in sometimes after midnight. You have to get up at 4 or 5 and leave, and it's not healthy. Let's just put it that way.
But you think everybody should do it?
I do, because it's just an incredible experience.
Well, every president looks a lot older when it's over, when his term is up.
Well, so do I after 10 years.
That's true.
You think about it. They've spent 8 years there. Mm-hmm. So in 8 years, it doesn't matter if they're there or on the beach, they're still going to look older.
They're going to probably look older on the beach.
Worse.
Oprah Winfrey said I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I don't.
Oprah Winfrey said she traveled so much that when she'd get to in her early career, that when she'd get to her hotels, she'd open up the door to see and read the phone book to find out what city she was in.
Exactly. You literally sometimes you'd think, oh man, or what town? Because if you're doing all the counties in Iowa or something like that, you just think, where am I? You wake up and you go, where am I? So it's very, very difficult. But it's...
Why should everybody run for office? Just for the exhilaration of it, or so they can walk in those shoes and understand the job?
I think it's walking in those shoes. Just like, why did I jump out of the airplane? Not just because I could, not because they asked me, because I now have an appreciation for anybody that jumps out of an airplane into a war zone. Mm-hmm. I say, yeah, I've been there. I know how that must be frightening. Or landing on an aircraft carrier. I've done that. I've talked to people who have been in the Navy 20 years and never done that. But I've done that, and it's just like landing on a postage stamp.
Yeah.
You just really got to find it first, and then you can't mess up. You got to make a successful trap, and if you don't make it, you'll be off in the ocean somewhere. So I know that. When I see these planes doing that, I say, yeah, I know how hard that is. And I've flown in an F-16, so I know when you're flying upside down or you're going straight up or you're turning over or you're pulling 9 Gs. Those people do that for a living. And I know what they're going through because I've done it.
Has your husband done as much stuff as you've done?
No. He
Knew that
would
was the answer.
never jump out of an airplane. He did fly an F-16, and I give him credit for that, but he would never jump out of an airplane. But I can appreciate the people that do it because I've done that.
Do you think campaigning was good or bad for your marriage?
Oh, it's good. I think we had a good time. Mike and I had fun. I mean, there was one time, and you know, the press that follow you, they're always looking for stuff. You know, I said, well, hey, just watch this. It's I've been over and picked up a big old snowball and just hurled it at Mike. And they just were, you know, beside themselves because Mike turned around and said, what? No, we just all had a snowball fight right there. Now, I did that knowing it was the last event of the day and that if we started throwing snow, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
You know, but I was just giving them something to write about just because I knew I could.
If you had become America's first lady, and you had you thought about what your work and your legacy would have been?
I had, and first of all, I think I would have been a good first lady and had a good time. But
Absolutely.
Sure.
because to me, you ought to have fun doing what you're doing. Either at least coming and going. Maybe you don't want to make that speech, but have fun coming and going, man. Take a new route. Go somewhere different. You know, stop at a little store and say hi. Or you need to have fun. So yes, I would have had fun. But well, and you mentioned I worked with the Red Cross. Disaster relief is real important to me. I think people need to be prepared, and they're not. And there's a lot of things that, you know, people could do to make their lives a whole lot easier if something happened that they just don't do. And I right now volunteer with Samaritan's Purse. You know,
With
and
what?
Samaritan's Purse.
What's that?
Samaritan's Purse is an organization that Franklin Graham, which is Billy Graham's son, runs, and they just do disasters all over the world.
Well, I bet they're busy.
They are extremely busy, and it's all volunteers mostly. It's all their money comes from just donations, and I mean they're flying DC-9s to the Ukraine loaded with, you know, medical supplies. They set up if you remember, they set up a medical unit, tent, whatever you want to call it, hospital in Central Park during COVID for New York.
Yeah.
They do that, and a lot of they did one in Mississippi to help them with COVID.
Is it just on American soil, or do they go?
No, they go everywhere. They're everywhere.
I've always wondered and you've probably done this because you've done everything. You're so experiential. But I've always wondered what it's like to go into a place that's in turmoil like that and start setting up camp and start finding clean water and start helping those people.
It's Samaritan's Purse brings in all that stuff. They bring in all their water. They bring in their generators.
But they have to get it distributed.
Yeah, and that's where all the volunteers come in. So, yes, I volunteer with Samaritan's Purse. They're right now in Kentucky with the floods. They have,
I'll bet.
Virginia had floods. I think they just closed that one out. Of course, the Ukraine. They're rebuilding in Kentucky from the tornado that came through. So they do rebuilds as well as cleanups. It's nasty work.
I bet.
It's very nasty,
I may
especially
be too much of a
floods.
prima donna for that.
They do fires. You know, they've been out in California, you know, literally sifting through ashes trying to find specific items that people lost or really want, you know, that are sentimental. They do a lot of stuff, and they, you know, sleep in churches and.
My future daughter-in-law works for a company that goes into these disaster areas. She goes everywhere and does the dogs. You'd be surprised how many animals are.
ASPCA.
What is it?
The ASPCA.
Yeah, every time there's a
think,
disaster, I call up Son Jack and say, well, where's your girlfriend? And she's like, oh, she's rescuing dogs in the fire. She's rescuing dogs in the hurricane. People tie their dogs in the backyard and leave.
Yes, especially floods. Just let them go, you know, because they can swim.
I mean, that's what we do with livestock. Do it with your dog.
Yeah.
It's like, give them a chance at least. Like.
So now Mike's on TV. He's got a podcast. He's run for office twice.
He's run for office more than twice.
Well, I mean, presidency twice.
Yeah.
He's only run for that twice, hadn't he?
Right.
Okay. And then does he live here? Or does he live in Washington?
No, nobody lives in Washington. I don't know where you're getting this Washington business.
I don't know why I feel like his show's in Washington.
His show actually is filmed in Nashville. And he leaves on Thursdays and is home Saturday.
So that's how you do that.
Yep, that's how you do it. It's called an airplane.
I bet you're a Baptist, you don't drink. But if you did, I'd say we got to go have a drink because you're fun. So your daughter, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, accepts the job as the press secretary for President Donald Trump. This is a huge job for any president, much less for Donald Trump. When did you hear Sarah was going to go work for Trump, and how did you feel? And were you part of the decision making for that?
No, I mean, she's an adult. She can make her own decisions, but she Sean Spicer was the press secretary originally, and Sarah did a lot of the speaking and interviews prior to the election on behalf of Trump. So she was already out there.
She's working on his campaign and stuff.
So she was working on the campaign. So after the campaign's over and he's now the president, it's kind of like, where do we put Sarah? So she was Sean Spicer's deputy to the press secretary and deputy press secretaries. So
was it scary to watch her?
It was, at first it was, and she's tough. She gets all her toughness from her mother. There's just no doubt about it. I don't even try to pretend it comes from anybody else because I know it comes from me. But she's smart like her father. So I knew she could do it. But yes, it was. And Mike and I happened to be on a cruise, and we were at dinner, and she said something that she was going to give her first on air, and so we had to say, we got to go. We got to go watch TV. So we did, because they somehow had Fox on that boat. But anyway, it was just, it's exciting and nerve-wracking. But I thought she did a great job.
She did a great job.
So.
When you talk about her, you look so far away. When you talk about her, I think you're so proud of her.
Oh, I'm totally proud of her. But I'm proud of all my kids.
Well, yeah.
She's probably
also
the most out there, but, I'm very proud of my sons. Sarah's a baby, too. I got two sons, then Sarah. Sarah's a baby. Sarah, my lucky number was 13 in basketball. That was my number. And I was obsessed with the number 13. I had keychains with it on there. I had, my jerseys had 13. I would sign my papers 13 and send them into the class. I mean, it was just I had a little group of girls in the 9th grade that used to say, far out 13. I mean, they were my little club, and it was an obsession. And the day I had 13 engraved on my living Bible, I said, this has got to stop. I've gone too far with this. I mean, it was just an obsession. Because everybody said, hey, 13, it was just down the hall. I just didn't have a name. But it was my lucky number. So both my boys were born early. And then Sarah came along, and she was late. And she was born on Friday the 13th. And I so wanted a daughter. But it wasn't looking good because I had 2 boys. Anyway, Friday 13th, my lucky number. Sarah's born on Friday 13th.
You also look not just proud, but you look deep in thought. I think so what is your fears for Sarah?
For Sarah, I've been there and done that, so I know, what she's fixing to have to go through if she were to be elected, which I hope and pray she is. I also know it's going to be difficult for her because she's going to be the first female if she wins, which means her husband will be the first gentleman, I guess. I don't know what he'll be called. When I was First Lady, there weren't any other men at the first, but then there came men later. And some were called, one of them was a coach. They called him Coach. One of them was...
Like first coach?
They just called him, hey, first coach, or just, hey, coach. Seriously. One was called the first dude.
Nice.
First gentleman. And there was another one I can't remember that was different, but...
That's what they call the vice president's husband, Kamala Harris's husband. He's a first gentleman, right?
He's a second.
Second gentleman, I mean.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry.
Second gentleman.
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, but so I don't know. I know it's going to be different from him because, I know what I did as First Lady. So when it comes to the mansion and that kind of stuff, that person usually takes care of that. So I don't know how much of that he's going to want to do. So he's going to have a good staff, call his mother-in-law, whatever he needs to do.
A lot.
But, it'll be different, but I think she'll be able to handle it.
Oh, yeah.
She turns 40 Saturday.
It's a great age.
Yeah.
It's a great age. I don't think I was. I don't think I was an adult till I hit 40. I really don't. I don't think I had any wisdom much. I used to always wonder why people don't loan me $1 million to grow my business. There must be something wrong with them. And then it's because I was in my 30s. And then when I turned 40, I was like, oh, it's because I was in my 30s. They'll loan me $1 million now that I'm 60 every day of the week.
Yeah.
I mean, there really is some every decade. You're just a little bit more experienced.
It is funny because I've purchased homes for $3 million in another country over the phone.
Yeah, and you're like,
I
I
was
couldn't have
kinda
done
like,
this.
There was a house that was close to the one we lived in Florida, and I needed that house. I thought I needed that house.
Mm-hmm.
I
Get
said,
rid
if
of
you
the
ever sell that house, call me. Well, they did. And we were in Israel actually, and we didn't do realtors or anything like that, and we just negotiated. And
Why are you in Israel? So we had a hard time getting our show together because you travel all the time. Why are you in Israel all the time?
Mike and I take groups to Israel.
Is that what it is?
I noticed
and-
the Hebrew on your wrist here.
Yes,
Yeah.
these
Are you
are all my
tattooed?
grandchildren listed in Hebrew.
Oh, that's nice.
Is she tattooed?
No, it's a
it's a
It's a
bracelet.
bracelet
Oh.
with Hebrew on it. Yeah.
Oh.
And I have Star of David. Israel is like, for Christians, like going home. I mean, there's so much that the Bible talks about that you can see there.
Makes it all come together.
It just makes reading the Bible. Mike always says you read the Bible in black and white, but after you take a trip to Israel, you read it in color because you've been there, you've seen that, you know that. And God said in Genesis, if you don't treat Israel right, you're not going to be blessed.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Oh, I
I'd
didn't
have
know
to
that.
look the exact.
So how often do you go?
We go every year. We went in 2020, got back the end of February. They shut the world down in March, if you remember. And so we didn't go anymore in 20. We didn't go in at all in 21. And we went in May this year, the first time for 2 years. But usually we go at least once a year, sometimes 2 or 3.
How many people y'all take?
Depends.
Is it scary?
No.
Okay.
I'd be more afraid walking out here than I would in
I've
Israel.
heard other people say, "Oh yeah, there's nothing scary." I don't know why. I don't know my geography very well. Not
So
scary.
that's why we've been going. Mike went the first time in 1973, and we've been going since the 80s,
Wow.
and taking groups.
All right, this is our last break because our first lady, Miss Huckabee's got to run. She's a busy woman, so I'm going to take a quick break.
I'm not all that busy, but I got to go babysit my youngest grandson.
Best answer.
So it's not that I'm that busy. It's just that's a
On a
priority.
schedule.
That is on my
I am
schedule.
having a new baby in 1 week.
Yes. Very exciting.
His brother.
Or my brother's,
Well-
her grandchild, her newest grandchild is arriving in
And
1
my
week.
other grandbaby's 13, so I'm thrilled.
Oh yeah.
to be
See,
getting a new
mine are. I
baby.
have 7.
Good for you.
And the oldest is only 11, and this one's 1.5. So I've got 7 packed in there pretty tight. I got a couple of 8s.
Do they all live here?
Yes.
Oh, I love it.
And so, I said, I got to be out by 12 because I got to go babysit at 12:30.
Did you know grandparenting was going to be so much fun?
Oh, yeah, because we have the same enemies, us and the grandkids.
Who are that? The parents?
The parents.
That's good.
So, yeah, absolutely, So we'll
You're so competitive.
we will give.
I could never run for office because you've got to be competitive, and I'm not.
Well, you have to be because you're running
Yeah.
a race. It's
Yes.
a race.
Yeah.
Yes,
But
yes.
I was competitive as a child.
Yeah.
And I played basketball.
Yeah.
You always strive to win. Nobody wants to be a loser. I mean, let's be real. You always want to win. You're always going to compete. If you're in something that you have to compete, you always want to win.
All right, when we continue our conversation with the 39th First Lady of Arkansas, Miss Janet Huckabee, we're going to talk about Sarah Huckabee Sanders' return to Arkansas and running for the governor's position on the Republican ticket, and how Janet feels about visiting the mansion again, only this time with her daughter at the helm. We'll be right back. You're listening to Up in Your Business with me, Carrie McCoy. I'm speaking today with Arkansas's First Lady from 1996 to 2007, Miss Janet Huckabee. And if you're just tuning into the show, Miss Huckabee, Janet, is funny. Mm-hmm. And you need to go back and listen. I'm not going to tell you all the stuff, but she's got stories. So what do you think about the Republican Party these days? It's nothing like it was when you started.
You're talking about in the state?
All over.
Well, no, it's totally different.
I know.
I mean, when Mike was first elected in the Senate, he had 6 Republicans out of 35. And in the House, he had 11. So he was like an outsider.
Right.
Total outsider.
Yeah. The Democrats were running this state forever.
Right.
You know, the pendulum always swings back and forth. You know
It does, but it hadn't swung this way in a long time, so it's good.
Campaigning is so different now than it was in the 60s and 70s.
Well, you do have to contend with instant news on social media and cameras, and, you know, I've seen some campaigns, just totally fall apart because someone had a little cell phone that they were filming. And so you have to be careful, but you know, it is different.
It's all about sensationalism this day. Sometimes I think people just say things to almost get made into the news. And there's a commercial on that I love, and you probably like it too. It's the Viking River Cruise ads where the co-founder says, "Growing up in a little red house on the edge of a large forest in Norway, there were 3 things we were encouraged to be kind, to be honest, and to be hardworking." I don't feel like those are really virtues anymore. I watch that ad every time it comes on. I never change that.
I like it. I've done some Viking cruises, and they're great. But
I don't even think people want to work hard anymore.
No, they're not. The generations are not. The last couple have not been taught to work hard. And I agree with those same 3. I think I heard them as, my mother made us work hard. I mean, we all had chores to do, and she expected us to do them. And there were things that, like Girl Scout camp. I wanted to go to Girl Scout camp. Well, that was not cheap. And for a mother raising kids, 5 kids, it was going to be next to impossible. She says, if you want it, she said, go work for it. And I said, but Mom, she said, you'll appreciate it a whole lot more if you do. So, I do weird things like back then you could turn in Coke bottles for 3 cents and, Cragmont bottles for, 5 cents. And, you could babysit and do things. And, I never got the full amount. She always came up with it somehow. And I went to Girl Scout camp, which everything I know I learned in Girl Scouts.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I just was taught so much in Girl Scouts. I love Girl Scouts. And I did it forever. I did it all the way up into high school.
So what do Boy Scouts become? They become...
Eagle Scouts.
Do girls become Eagle Scouts?
I don't think so. They just become Senior Scouts or something. I don't know. But anyway, I had a great time in my Scouts. I learn how to cook and, tin can and all these things.
So I don't know how there's so much that I think we want the government, the police, the teachers to do that I think is parenting stuff, that I think is parenting things. So, maybe parents today need to be taught how to parent.
But again, let's go back to a lot of parents, a lot of homes only have one parent. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to, go out and throw a baseball to a little boy when he didn't have a father and his mother's at work. Mm-hmm. So it's hard for single parent homes to do a lot of the things that we think parents ought to teach our children. Mm-hmm. So
yep,
it goes back, really, it's not the government's fault per se.
No.
It's just that and the government shouldn't be telling us how to do all things with our children because they're not the parent. Mm-hmm.
Right.
So
This time, instead of your husband talking grandiose ideas, which you expected when you married him, I come to realize it is your daughter who comes in, your youngest child, and tells you she wants to run for governor of Arkansas. What did you think again? Oh no, here we go.
No, she called me. I was driving back from Florida. I was just, I believe, in Mississippi. And she called and said, Mom, what are you doing? I said, driving back from Florida. Nothing, just sitting here listening to music. I said, what's up? She says, well, I've decided I'm going to run for governor. And I said, really? She goes, yeah. I said, why? And then she told me. She gave me her whole reason of why she thought she would be a great governor. I said, okay. I said, well, can you give now, or have you? When she says no, I was going to give her money. No, first she said, Mom, I just want to know if you'd support me. I said, I'll pray about it and see.
Good answer.
And she says, Mom, and she said, I want you to give me money and I want you to max out. And I said, well, I don't know, Sarah. That's asking a whole lot. I'm just ribbing her. And she goes, Mom, I said, when it's time to give, let me know. I want to be the first one, and I will max out. And she said, okay. So that's the first check. She came and said, Mom, it's time. I said, here's your check. So I gave her whatever the $11,000 or whatever you could give for her campaigns, and maxed out because I think she'll be a great candidate, and I think she'll be an excellent governor. So no, I wasn't surprised at all.
I believe in women. They're great multitaskers.
I think so.
Governor Hutchins told me he was glad he told me this one day. He said, I'm glad my term is up because he didn't want to have to run against your daughter.
It's funny.
So do you think is he going to run in 24 for president?
Personally, I don't know that. I haven't heard it from him or his wife. But I think he is, in the things that I see him do, I think he's leaning to checking it out.
I don't
know if he'll do it, but he's checking it out.
He's checking it out for sure. So you weren't part of the decision-making process, but you're going to work on her campaign, I guess.
Yes, my work is keeping kids mostly.
That's a great job.
So,
Feeding them cookies when they shouldn't have them.
Oh, absolutely.
I know.
I do campaign for her. I put the stickers on my car and the sign in my yard even though nobody sees it and all those kind of things. And I have gone to a couple places with her.
Huh. Yeah.
But, a lot of times it's, Mom, can you keep the kids? I think we're going to say, yeah, sure.
You're not going to be jumping out airplanes for her anymore.
You never know. You never say never.
So she'll be the 47th governor of Arkansas. If she is, you've already said you wouldn't run for office, but would you like some sort of position?
Well, I don't think she can give her mother a position.
She can't?
No. I mean, she could, but it would cost her probably politically. But no, I don't think she's going to be giving me any positions.
So if seeing her in the mansion, which she grew up in, would be so deja vu.
She knows all the hiding places so her kids don't stand a chance.
No. Would it be sweet or would it be bittersweet or would it be...
It's going to be tough because she's got 3 kids that have had their own rooms since they've been born, and they're not going to have that when they get there. I'm not sure what they're going to do.
How old are her kids?
11, 9, and 8. 11, 9, and
perfect
7.
age to be in the mansion.
11, 9, and 7.
That's
and
perfect.
Nobody's had kids that young in the mansion, and I don't think since maybe prior. I don't know.
Chelsea was born at the mansion.
Chelsea, I forgot
Chelsea was born at the mansion, and they were there a long time.
They were there, and then they left for 2 years. Governor White beat him in 1980. And then they came back and were there for a few years. I think he was there 12 years total.
Yeah, it was long, too.
Yeah, so.
So, where's the rest of the flags?
We didn't have them. But that's okay because she never lived in D.C., so...
Well, but she did live in Texas and Florida.
I know.
You're not still living in Florida, are you?
No, sold our house in Florida. How can a flag company not have flags?
Well, because there's a supply chain problem.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been listening to the news for the last couple of years.
Yeah, I was redoing a house, so I know exactly what the problem
is. So I do have the Arkansas and the U.S. flag.
Very cute.
Which is your desk set, which I want you to take. But I figured you already had an Arkansas and a U.S. flag, but maybe your grandkids need some. But I wanted to also give you a Texas and a Florida flag because you had lived there, and I figured you didn't have those.
Yeah,
Probably
we can-
not.
We are,
Probably not.
we
I'm
are
absolutely going to send you one.
So we're
I
out.
actually have one of the things in our new house. It's not new. It's an old house, but it's new to us. But Mike wanted a flagpole.
Well, sure.
He a big flagpole, big flag zone. So we had the U.S. flag and the Arkansas flag up there. And then one day Sarah was over there. She says, I have a flag. I said, well, if I ever had one, I might put it up. So I had to take the Arkansas flag down to put Sarah's up.
Oh, well, sure.
But when she gets elected, I'm going to have to try to figure out how to put all of them up, I think.
Yeah,
I can help you with that.
absolutely.
Because I think she needs to be up still. Her flag's fading a little bit.
Is it smaller than the U.S. flag or the same size?
I think they're real close to the same size. I think they're
So
4
just
by
make
8s.
sure. So it'll be, if you put 3 on a pole, just make sure the U.S. is on top, the Arkansas is underneath. She
absolutely.
knows.
Know
She
that.
knows.
Now
Well,
in Florida,
listeners.
when we were in Florida, we put all 3 flags. So we put the Arkansas flag up,
Oh,
and it was real funny because nobody ever knew why we had that. They didn't know what it was.
That's a good look. Arkansas is a good looking flag.
and it's very different. There's some flags that are very close, and you think, is
Well,
that-
they've all got
Is that New
seals.
Mexico, or is that you just kind of have to think about it. But
lot of the
Arkansas is a spot you
yeah.
just
A lot of the
know
Midwestern flags are a color field with a seal.
exactly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you
they're-
have to think
you don't
about
know
it.
what the seal is, especially from a distance. You're like, look at that circle in the middle. Janet, this has been an absolute
Well, I had fun. I
joy.
appreciate it.
No, I appreciate it. It's been really, really fun. Thanks. I hope you'll come again someday. I don't know.
Sure.
We'll do
I
something.
have to tell you
What?
that the title up in your business is a little intimidating because you think, what in the heck does that really mean? 'Cause mostly it's a negative thing when you say, you're all up in my business. You just need to get out.
Well, Mom's good at getting up in people's business.
Yeah.
So,
I thought, oh gosh, I'll give it a shot. So anyway,
So I should add the word nicely up in your business.
nicely up in your business.
politely in your business.
up in your
Politely in your business. I love it.
All right, in closing, to our listeners, thank you for spending time with us. We hope you've heard or learned something that's been inspiring or enlightening, and that whatever it is, will help you up your business, your independence, or your life. I'm Carrie McCoy, and I'll see you next time on Up in Your Business. Until then, be brave and keep it up.
You've been listening to Up in Your Business with Carrie McCoy. For links to resources you heard discussed on today's show, go to flagandbanner.com, select radio, and choose today's guest. If you'd like to sponsor this show or any show, email me, Gray, at gray@flagandbanner.com. All interviews are recorded and posted the following week. Stay informed of exciting upcoming guests by subscribing to our YouTube channel or podcast wherever you like to listen.